How is everyone doing tonight or today or wherever you are in the world? That's the great thing about online and Facebook. We can be in one place and we can talk to anybody we want in the world. It's a fantastic thing. We're just going to sit here for a moment. We're going to wait for some eyes to get on here. We are going to let that good old Facebook algorithm grab all those audience people so that we have people here, because I have a very special guest here with us today. Somebody that personally mentors me, has done a whole lot of work, and somebody actually I really do look up. And anybody in the audience that actually sees me and knows who I am, I'm really picky with the people that I surround myself, like extremely picky. And Mark can probably say the same thing even for himself. He surrounds himself and he's probably very picky with who he associates with as well, right? Because you hear this all the time. You are known by the 5 people that you surround yourself. So if you surround yourself with 5 people, you're the 6th every single time. It's just reality. What's going on, Stuart? How are you doing today? It's weird. I did one yesterday and Stuart was the very first person here. He must be like, literally, what's going on in Jeff's life?
He's just refreshing the page, waiting for you.
When you hop on here, let me know that you are here. We have a special guest here. We're going to take some Q&As with my man, Mark Lack. Mark Lack owns Shorten the Gap. He is a branding guru. He works with various stars out there. He's done interviews with some of the top people. You can actually go take a look it up. He's interviewed Ty Lopez, Grant Cardone, you name it. And what I can tell you is the man is fire. He knows what he's talking about. He's not going to fill you with a bunch of fluff. He's going to give you a ton of value. And it falls very much in line with actually my value system, which is to give more value than you take, right? And I think that's very similar to him, because if there's anything that I ever want from him, if he can't do it at that minute, he always gets back, right? And that's the coolest thing about it. So he does personal VIP days with people. He tears people's business apart to bring it back up to see massive gains. He's done that with my business as well as I know several other people. And he's going to be fired tonight. So we're going to have, any questions that you guys are going to want that pertain to what we're talking about. If you want to talk about like Bitcoins or something, this isn't the conversation to have. So I'm going to give it over to my man, Mark Lack, and he's going to give us some fire.
Thanks for having me on, brother. I'm excited. I see we got some people joining in now. So a couple things. Jeff and I will be going back and forth and talking about some of the subjects and answering some of the questions we think are most relevant to helping move the needle to get you from where you are right now and producing the results in your life and in your business to ultimately getting you to where you want to be. So maybe you want to double your income next year for 2018. We're coming to the close of 2017. One of my favorite things as a little kickoff to the call here is I take probably a couple hours. And at the end of every year, I just kind of go through and I look at, what was my 2017 like? And I look in a couple main areas. I look at my health, my wealth, and my relationships. And in my health, I'm looking to see mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, how was I fulfilled? Where did I fall short? Did I even have goals in any of those areas or not? And maybe I should create some. Because if you have heard of any of the people out there, like Steve Jobs, for an example, it doesn't matter how much money you have or how much, you've created in the world or impacted. If you don't have your health, you don't get to enjoy any of it. So health is super important. I know Jeff's a big fan of that. When it comes to wealth, how much money did you make versus what you actually wanted to? How did you invest it? How did you save it? And how did you spend it? And so those are different areas that I look at as well. Did I spend, holy crap, I spent $7,000 on a bunch of shit I didn't even need. And you go back and you look, how much did I make? What did I spend all my stuff on? I was just hanging out with my CPA and we were going through accounting and I was like, oh man, taxes really suck. But looking at where I was spending money and realizing, oh, okay, first of all, I'm trying to get as many write-offs as possible, but you want to look at how much you make, how much you spend, how did you invest it? And these are some of the simple things that you do at the end of the year. And then relationships are, who's in my life, who's not in my life, who should be in my life, what type of partners do I want? Am I really showing up in my relationships the way that I should be? Am I, telling the ones I love that I love them? Silly things like this. Have I grown closer or further away from certain people in my life? Looking at what Jeff said is my inner circle, the 5 closest people. Really, 5 is a bullshit number. It could be 7. It could be 10. It's the people that are closest to you, the ones that you're maybe sitting next to right now watching this, maybe the ones that you're going home to later. Those are the people that you work with and that you live with and that you're friends with. And sometimes they're toxic. And, there's a certain there's a certain level of success and happiness and fulfillment I personally believe you'll never achieve unless you get toxic people out of your life. And that doesn't mean you have to be gone forever. It just means you need to distance yourself from certain people. And sometimes it can be tough. It can be friends, it can be family, but the quality of my life, the impact I have in the world, and the money and the experiences that I get to, have are in direct proportion to the new environments, the new people that I choose to be around. And so this conversation is going to be really fun, but that was kind of like a little kickoff that as we get close to the holidays and as we get close to wrapping up this year, I want you to challenge yourself to sit down and spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe an hour, and recap what your year was like. Was it better than you thought? Was it worse than you thought? How can you make 2018 better? And if you get clear on what you want your health, your wealth, your relationships, and other areas of your life to look like, then you can kind of reverse engineer the plan to figure out how to get there. And hopefully on this call or this interview right now, we'll be able to help kick it off. And whether you're watching the replay later, if you comment, we'll go back and we'll personally respond. So don't think because, I'm watching the replay, I'm going to miss this. No, if you comment, even on the replay, we'll go back and we'll answer questions. So I'm going to throw it back over to Jeff. We're going to play hot potato here.
Awesome. So just like he was saying there, the people that you associate yourself with, I can't tell you how important it was. I was just at a personal development, I think it's about 2.5, 3 weeks ago. And one thing that I started to understand more than I ever understood before was the power of language. The association of words to actually memories are everything. When you use a word in the language, the only place that your brain has to go to is what that actual word meant from a memory. So what happens is it recreates an emotion or a thought based on what you just said. So if you're around a bunch of people, like he was saying, that use negative words, suck, all things are going crappy, your brain's grabbing all that information and you're almost living it. You get that? Like literally your emotions and your energy level are living it. So I love that. And that's a huge reflection of who you are is by being around these people. So if you're around people that have high energy, like for example, being on this right now, I had a very busy day today. And the energy that Mark brings to this and the vibrance immediately boosts my energy level and ups my game. You guys get that? That's the coolest thing. So there's one thing that I could tell you, and there's a direct example of that on how that was. And here's the other thing. A lot of people talk about family is the most important thing to me. And I'm going to go back to what Mark was saying. Family is super important to you. But if it is the most important thing to you, you need to make health your number one. Because you can't be around to support your family, be around your family, and make an impact on the world or your kids or anyone else if you don't have your health. Because you're shortening the time that you're here. And that was something that I just learned in the last year. I was into health, but not at my A game, right? And it wasn't until I was able to associate when somebody made that comment to me, and I was like, holy cow, so correct. It's not the family. I need to focus on getting myself healthy so that I can actually be there for those people. So really awesome stuff. So I'm excited for everybody here. The first thing I want to let everyone know, this is going to be a complete value session. What I can guarantee you and what I promise you is that the information that you're going to learn from this, if you take it and apply it to your life, can make your life better. Even if it's 1%, right? 1% better than where you are right now is 1% closer to where you want to be. And it's that action of leaving your current circumstances to get where you want to be is the scariest thing. But it's the coolest thing, because when you do that, you're learning. And when you're learning, you're growing. And when you're growing, you're building an empire for yourself. I promise you that. So
something else people don't, I love that you said the 1%, because something else that people fall short on is 1% difference is very achievable. It's very believable. But something that people misunderstand about 1% difference is that if an airplane takes off from LA and the tip of the plane is pointed at New York, and the plane takes off and it's pointed at New York, when it takes off from LA, it will land in New York. But if the tip of the plane is pointed just 1%, one tiny percent off course, all the way across the United States, it ends up hundreds of miles off track. Even though in LA it was just 1% off, it ends up hundreds of miles off track by the time it goes a long distance. So when Jeff says if something you learn today can just help you improve by 1%, 1% doesn't sound like a lot, but just like the airplane being all the way across the United States, just like your life, 1% being better on track in 10 years means you're going to end up in a totally better place 1% off track in 10 years and you're fat, you're sloppy, you're unhealthy, or worse,
Totally.
you're in the same freaking place you are now. And if you're not growing, you're dying. So I'd rather you be 1% on track, 1% growing, than to not be. So hopefully from this, we can make you 100% better in certain areas. But if we can only make you 1%, that'll have a compounding effect.
Yeah, and exactly. And the big thing that we're here today, something that I wanted everyone to understand as well, is there's probably about a handful. I like to call them a handful. There's 5 habits that you could probably do on a regular basis that would start you off and get you in. There's a thing called state. So, and there's another thing, and I just learned this week. A lot of people use, and this is just my personal belief, I've actually never had this conversation with Mark, but when we use the word goal, whenever I think of goal, I've set so many goals in my life that I've never actually hit, ever. So goal to me, in a responsive of my memory, is I'm just going to say something and hopefully I get there. And one thing that I realized, and it's really cool, is what an outcome is. What is my outcome with everything I'm doing? What was my outcome to be here today with Mark Lapp? What was my outcome with the food that I was about to partake? What was my outcome? Because outcomes are little results. And when you actually do that, guess what? You spike your serotonin, your dopamine, you start feeling good about everything. So I started reframing from goals to outcomes. What are your thoughts on that, Mark?
I think it's true. I think that I think goals are great. But I think at the end of the day, you don't want to set and achieve a goal. You're trying to achieve an outcome. And so a goal is just another way of saying an outcome. You're trying to achieve an outcome. So I agree. I think that just calling it what it is, which is I'm trying to achieve this outcome, is better than saying I'm trying to achieve this goal. And yeah, I mean, it's a whole conversation we can get into, but again, it has to get into language and interpretation and what words mean to you. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I think all of us, if we're being honest with ourselves, have all set goals and haven't achieved them. Some of us have worse. We've set goals and haven't even started to work on them. And so, yeah, I think that, for me, something that I'm more focused on is small progress. And I love big goals. I love having a goal. I think they're fantastic, but for the sake of the example, I'm gonna not talk about setting a goal and reverse engineering the plan. I'm gonna just talk about making small improvements, because I think what happens is sometimes we set goals and we try so hard to just achieve that goal to make sure we don't fall short or our self-worth will go down, and we get so caught up in trying to achieve the goal that we forget about the whole purpose of life, the journey. And so for me, I know that if I can just improve the quality of my life, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, financially, if I can just improve in those areas in every way, just a little bit, like we're talking about the 1%, if I can just improve a little bit every day, and at the end of the day, I can say, I'm grateful, I'm happy, I'm healthy, I have amazing people in my life, I impacted and contributed today, I grew mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, financially today. Life is fucking good. Who cares about this goal? I see too many people trying to hustle, trying to achieve goals, trying to make more money, trying to have more, and they're freaking miserable. And so although I love goals, I'm trying to create like happy days where like every day I'm happy. I see a lot of people that have goals, a lot of people that don't have goals. The common theme amongst most people is they're not happy, they're not successful, they don't have good relationships. Their life is just average. And so for me, I'm trying to have an above average, an extraordinary life. Average sucks. Like, you get it. And, I think average people set and do goals and stuff like this. And some rich people do. It's tough to I'm kind of rambling here. My point is, I think your goal, your outcome every day should be to have a freaking awesome day.
I couldn't agree more. And
that's it.
Just those little progresses. I see this, and here's the thing. At one point in my life, for a long portion of my life, everything for me was all or nothing. There was no progress. There was no little wins. It was like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to be the best and the baddest ass, whatever I was. And if I fell off, that was it. I was no longer doing it. I didn't look at any of the progress or where I got. I fell off. Same with diet and food. Sometimes I traveled for a long period of times and I was like, yes, I'm in my routine. And don't get me wrong, routines are awesome. And that's part of something when it comes to success that you actually require. And Mark will probably agree with some of this stuff. Yeah. And a lot of other people that are successful, you're going to find the same thing. But here's the thing, being okay with derailing yourself for a short window and being okay to come back and be like, okay, I'm ready to get back into my routine was a big thing, because I would get derailed. I don't know if anyone else out there, but I remember I'd go and I want to get healthy, and I'd eat super, super healthy for like a month. I'd fall off once and that was it. Next thing you know, I was eating pizza. I was doing, going out and drinking. And ever since I started with the whole success factor and understanding this stuff and surrounding myself it, I give myself little progress reports of it. I'm okay with not being 100% all the time, and I'm easily able to get back to it. And it was kind of like a mind switch, like a massive mind switch, because I became aware. And once I became aware, I was okay. I don't know how you feel about that, but that was kind of like a big aha for me.
I'm an all or nothing kind of guy, and anyone that knows that there's a lot of pros and cons to that. Like there's good things and bad things about being an all or nothing kind of guy.
Absolutely.
And something though that I am all in on all the time, and it makes life so much easier, is this concept, this cliche, funny, simple saying of an hour a day will pave the way. And I just believe that if you just spend 1 hour a day growing and improving, and like, I know I keep going back to that, but that's like been the key to my success and quality of life and happiness and fulfillment and great relationships and network and TV show and, millions of dollars and the ability to buy this new home I'm in. Like all of this has happened from this concept of an hour a day will pave the way. And the crazy part is 1 hour a day for an entire year. And there's no shortcuts. It's Christmas. A fucking hour a day for 365 days at the end of a year is 9 40-hour weeks. 1 hour a day, every day for 365 days at the end of the year is 9 40-hour weeks. And the average person, a 9-to-5 job, is a 40-hour week. You just got 9 straight weeks of 100% focus on self-improvement. 9 straight weeks of pure improvement. How insane is that? You just spent more than 2 months as a full-time job just growing and improving how you feel mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, in your relationships. Here's the crazy part. At the end of a decade, maybe you're 20, maybe you're 30, maybe you're 40, maybe you're 50. There's 50 years, right? Obviously, you're not going to do this as a baby, but moving forward, you got another 10 years you can do this. Here's the cool part. If an hour a day every day for a year is 9 40-hour weeks, in a decade, it's 90 40-hour weeks. That means at the end of a decade, you've spent almost 2 straight years out of 10 years. You spent almost 20% of your entire 10 years just growing and improving as a full-time job, which that's like a bachelor's degree right there. You just got a full freaking degree. And then if you're anything like me, you're thinking, well, holy shit, 2 hours a day multiplies that by 2. 3 hours a day multiplies that by 3. And so instead of an hour a day being 9 40-hour weeks, now I've got 18 just by doing 2 hours a day. Some days I don't do anything but just read for 12 straight hours. Guess what? Just accelerate it. And so it is absolutely insane. And the way that I came up with this philosophy version of my own is from a mentor of mine who said, in front of an audience of people, he said, how many of you, and these were successful business people, especially when I first heard this, he said, how many of you would shovel elephant poop every single day? You got to go out in the yard. You got to shovel elephant poop every day for just 1 hour a day. No weekends. It's every single day, 1 hour a day. You got to shovel poop. Everybody's hand went up. Everybody's hand went up. He said, if you shovel poop for 1 hour a day, every day for 10 years, at the end of those 10 years, you'll have anything you want, any relationship, any health goal, any body, any business, any money in your bank account, anything you want in 10 years, you can have it. If you shovel poop for 1 hour a day, every day, everybody's hand went up. You can be a billionaire. You can have $100 million. You can have anything you want. Just shovel poop for 1 hour a day, every day. That's it.
I love that analogy. And I just learned something now too, that just to even think about that, spending an hour a day and how you have 9 40-hour weeks under your belt, just working on yourself. I didn't even know, there's a value statement to me now. Now I can look at that and go, oh my gosh, that's what I'm doing. That's where I'm living.
An hour a day will pave the way. And then here's the cool part though, before you continue, he said, replace the shoveling of poop with reading a book on the subject matter that's going to give you the knowledge, awareness, and skill sets to know the path to follow for the next 10 years, and do this every day. And in those 10 years, you will have achieved that goal of whatever it is you would have shoveled poop for simply by reading books.
This man here has read over 500 books, by the way. No shit. So, yeah.
There's a lot of them behind me. This is just some of them.
Those are just some of them. So, and here's the thing. So, reading books is like a massive thing. If you look at the average CEO, this is actually a true statement. The average CEO every single year reads 30 books on average. Okay. So, and is it the books or is it the knowledge? It's the knowledge.
All you're ever trying to do is you say you want something, but yet you're missing out on these couple key things. You don't have the knowledge, you don't have the skill sets, you don't have the beliefs, you don't have the environments, you don't have the compounded consistent effort and repetition of rinsing and repeating the entire process I just said. If you haven't achieved the result, then you need to acquire the knowledge, the skill sets, the environments, the beliefs, the values, the model of the world. You need to go and get those things and rinse and repeat over and over until you achieve the result you want. And the only way to get those things is to continue to read. Eventually, you'll have read a book that has said what we just said, but you'll finally be ready to hear that I got to cut these toxic people out of my life. Instead of being like, oh, yeah. No, you'll finally have read one thing for the 100th time said in a different way from someone else, and you're finally going to be ready to hear it, and that'll be the tipping point. And that's why it's so important to keep doing it.
It's funny. Tony Robbins makes and I don't know if this is the way, but he basically makes a statement like this. He's like, most people that you see in the limelight now have been spending 10 years of their life outside of the limelight mastering their craft. And you notice how he used 10 years? And I believe they say, is it 5 or 7 years? 5 or 7 years of focusing on one thing, you'll become a professional on it. Literally, just by reading books. Warren Buffett said he had to cut down on how much he's reading every day. He's like, I only read 80 pages a day now. Literally, he had to cut down. I couldn't even imagine how many pages a day he read, but he had to cut down on 80. Knowledge is power. And I mean, guys, if we just take that little hour, like he said, and turns into 9 weeks, we will literally become a professional at whatever we want.
Just an hour a day. Just an hour a day. None of this bullshit. I don't have time. It's going to take too much. The time's going to go by anyways. And instead of watching that Netflix show for 2 hours, watch it for 1 and then have the other hour be reading. And here's how simple it is. I wake up early to read for 1 hour every single day. I get it out of the way. And then I go to the gym and I work out and I get that out of the way. And now I've mentally and physically grown right off the bat. We got somebody said, this is my first year as an entrepreneur. I read my first.
Nick, it's funny, actually. Nick, we can show this up on the board here. So Nick himself actually was a machinist by trade. And he actually joined mentorship, just like myself, joining mentorship with you. Yeah. And his life's been totally impacted. He's never actually had to be employed anymore. He's actually an entrepreneur, as they would call it. And by reading those books, he understands the power and the fire, and surrounding yourselves with people. Like, for example, there's certain things that I've been able to just mention just because we're friends, right? He's part of it, that he's been able to go and maximize. And you realize that? I remember somebody was telling me, actually, it was just recently, it was about 2 months ago, they were telling me, do you know how powerful it is to go up and get yourself in the first class, business class of an airplane? And he said, it's not because you're there in the cushy seats. It's not because you paid more money. It's because the company that you're surrounded with is so much different. He literally said that. The company that I'm surrounded with is so much different. Why? Usually in a lot of cases, 70%, this is the stat, 70% millionaires and billionaires are self-made. Where's the sauce? Where does it come from? It just wasn't given to them. There's literally, it's like a formula. I swear, I don't know. My belief is it's literally a formula. They tend to have these handful of habits, all of them. Reading, exercising, gratitude. Those are 3 right there. I can tell you right off the hop.
Everything,
that a lot of the
almost everything is a formula. And another way of putting it is patterns. Everything in life is patterns. The way nature grows has a pattern. If you look, things that we think are beautiful have patterns. The way that you can make money or lose money in almost any industry has patterns, and they repeat themselves. Like, to give you a simple example, if from a physiology perspective, we can reverse engineer the result with a pattern. If I'm feeling depressed, what is the pattern of my physiology? Am I like this? Yeah. Or is my head down? My head's probably down. It's not up. Is my face relaxed and kind of somber, or is it smiling? It's relaxed and somber. Am I breathing really shallow, or am I breathing really deep? Am I slouched over, or is my chest and shoulders back? It's like, it's obvious what physiology patterns we have to model to feel a certain way. Is a confident person, chest up, arms up, looking up. Of course, right? I can go on and keep it super simple for you right now.
It's what they call state.
State, exactly. But that's the thing. Model a pattern to get a certain emotional state. And so here's the crazy part is we feel emotions all throughout the day based on patterns. Our physiology patterns, our focus patterns, and our language patterns, what we are saying to ourselves internally and externally to others, and what's being said to us.
I love that. I was waiting for that. The message that you have going on there is directly correlating to the pattern that you're putting out there.
So if you do this exercise, and every hour you check in with yourself. I used to, before I became unconsciously competent. Unconsciously competent means that when you drive from the same place to the same place you always go, like to work, you just appear there. You don't recognize the shit going on around you. You can do it with your eyes closed. You just somehow get there and you're like, oh, I'm already here. Because you're so unconsciously competent of how to do it, like brushing your teeth and showering. You just do it. You don't have to think, I should put soap here and move my hand like this and brush my teeth like this. You're unconsciously competent. You just do it unconsciously without even thinking. And guess what? The problem is, this is how a lot of people run their lives. They're unconscious of the fact that their whole life is on autopilot. And so if you can check in on your phone, put a reminder every hour or two, have a reminder go off and say, check in with yourself. And all you do, it's so easy. We all have smartphones. Put on there a reminder that goes off every hour or two. And it says, check in with yourself. And all that's going to do is have you sit there and go, how's my physiology? How am I feeling right now? How do I feel on a scale of 1 to 10? And here's the crazy part. At the end of a day, when you go, oh, my day's, I fucking hate when people say, how's your day? Not bad.
I know.
What? I didn't say how.
Or wish. Yeah. All those ones, I'm like, oh.
All of those things, right? So, when people check in with themselves every hour or two, you have the ability to interrupt the autopilot, the unconscious autopilot of your life. And so until you are aware, awareness is the first step in change. Until you can't fucking change a behavior and a result until you have awareness. And unless if you should read a book, I can pull it off my shelf. It's called Trigger, like a trigger on a gun, Triggers. And it tells you about all of this in great detail about how until you are aware of the trigger, you can't make a change. And so if you remind yourself on your phone every hour or two throughout the day to check in, say, how am I feeling mentally, physically, emotionally? Am I frustrated? Am I angry? Am I energized? Am I passionate? Am I focused? Then guess what? There's only 3 things you need to change. Your physiology, your focus, and your language. Oh, you know what? I'm feeling bad right now because I'm slouched over. I'm sitting like this. No wonder I feel bad. You've never felt your best sitting like this.
Dude, totally. It's straight fire. A lot of what he's talking about, like that whole part of the unconscious, I call it we are the zombies, most of us. We literally came out of a womb and we started to remember, analyze, create emotions there. And then by the time we're 8 years old, you can actually look this up and read about it. You pretty much have what I like to call, this is how I frame my brain. It's like a computer. And by the time I was 8 years old, the programming was done. Now I just started to respond according to what I know. And what happens is you're no longer, you're not even aware. Something happened when you were 5 years old. It made you upset. Now you're 25. The same thing happens. Guess what you get? You get upset again. It's the craziest thing. So by what he's saying there, by starting making yourself aware, you actually start becoming aware of the emotions, what it is that you're thinking about, your posture. Like, I mean, massive. And guys, it took me, I mean, Mark's 27 years old. Just so you guys know, he started on this path at 18 years old. He's now literally, he's almost 10 years into this, and all he does is focus on himself and giving the value statement of helping other people. And when I say helping other people, you have to have a clear, I mean, in my personal belief system, there's nothing that is 100% fulfilling other than helping other people. I believe everyone on this planet was put on this world to make a difference. And as long as you're giving more value to people than you're taking or asking from them, it's kind of like going to the bank and say you didn't have overdraft. You can't go to the teller, give them $100 and try and pull out 1,000. It doesn't work. And if I remember correctly, I got a little bit of that information actually from your workshop. I think that's actually one of your lines.
It's one of my favorite analogies. You know, jumping into networking. You know, people look at networking. At least not all of us, of course, not you, but people typically are taught to look at networking as I'm going to go to this event, I'm going to network with people, and I'm going to try to find the best people that I think I can connect with because I can get something from them. That's just kind of like what we think, right? Like you're not going to, most people don't go, I'm so excited to go to this networking event to see exactly who I can connect with and give the most value to. They're saying, I'm going to try to find the best people in this room that are in my business that I can work with and network with and prospect with and get something from. And so if you look at relationships as bank accounts, you can't go up to a bank account you've never made a deposit in and ask for a withdrawal. You walk up to the bank, you don't even go to Chase Bank or Bank of America or whatever, wherever you guys have. And it's like, hey, I'd like to take out $10,000. Sir, we don't even have your name on file. Who the fuck are you? And so they're going to say, get out of here. And so it's the same thing with strangers, right? People, oh, you have such a successful network of people. Yeah, I do, because all I do is try to find people and put thousands of dollars of value and gifts. Like you go, oh man, it's so hard to get a billionaire's attention. No, you just don't know. You haven't done your research. You don't know what that billionaire cares about, right? So if you just take a little bit of effort to add value first to people, instead of, I can show you message upon message upon message in my phone from these idiots that hit me up and they say, let me know if there's any value I can provide to you. Let me know if there's anything I can do for you. How can I provide value? How can I support you? Anything I can do. And I just shake my head and I just delete it, because every single time I get messages from people that say that, it tells me two things. One, they don't know how the game works. They don't know how the game works of life and business, adding value first. And it's obvious because of the second thing they're missing. They didn't do their research. And if you do your research, you fucking know what I want, value. You know what would add value to me if you took 10 seconds to look me up, to call my office and to say, hey, what could I do that would add value to Mark? Oh, well, my team would be happy to tell you if you're going to do it all for free, you're going to do their job for free. And then they're going to be like, hey, Mark, I told this guy all this stuff. He went and did it for free. They're going to try to take the credibility too. So guess what? If you just call the office of Jeff and say, hey, what could I do for Jeff that would just blow him away? What does he want right now? I'm going to try to do anything I can do to get it for free, to show him that I care. I'm going to try to get him these interviews. I'm going to try to get him speaking opportunities. I'm going to try to bring him value. Great. Guess what I want? I want bigger interviews with bigger people. I want bigger stages to speak on. I want to be consistently featured in all the biggest publications. I want to connect with. You buy me cool ass gifts like that I actually want. Like simple things. If you just did your research, like I'll send somebody. I got a closet full of gifts over here. I'm about to mail out for Christmas. Just stupid stuff, not like fancy, expensive stuff. Funny stuff that's going to make people laugh, make people smile. So they're always thinking about you. But yeah, man, when it comes to networking, it is insane how many people always are like either doing the, hey, I'm going to take something first. And then if I take something first, then we'll see how you can, I'll only give you something if you give me value first.
Yes, I love the business. I love it when you're talking to people about business and risk and stuff like that. And they're like, this is the famous one. This is like a Control-Alt-Delete reboot out the door. So can you show me how, You go ahead and put yourself out there and show me the results, and then I'll actually join in on it.
Yeah.
Do you think that I'm going to go out and do all the work and then give you a piece of the pie afterwards?
Yeah.
Isn't that the best? And you know how often I hear that, Mark? It's so crazy. Prove to me,
Yeah.
prove to me, prove to me. Are you kidding me? That's not how it works in life. It literally doesn't work that way.
I just tell people, obviously I don't give them the time of the day if they message me, but if I'm face-to-face or over the phone and I already am in the conversation, I'll just let people know. I'll say, look, when you find something like that, let me know and I'll do it with you.
Yeah, let's go open up a restaurant together. Put me on the partnership, but I don't have to invest in anything. And when it gets money, then I'm going to take out the funds, right? It's the funniest thing, but really, really cool stuff. I mean, how many people in here are getting a ton of value? If you are, the best way that you could give us value back, just by the sheer fire that's happening here right now, would be to comment, share, like, and deposit a whole bunch of those hearts. Those hearts, share, because my big thing, the reason I'm holding this, I mean, I'd have a conversation with Mark and myself on our own one-on-one. The reason that I'm doing this live here today is to be able to connect with, on the largest platform in the world with people. You guys understand that? Because there's somebody out there at somewhere in their life that might be part of your friends, your connection online, that really needed to hear this today. You understand that? And by just impacting one little person one way, you've literally made a change or a ripple effect in how that person may see things in their life. We're not talking about hard. We're talking about like things that can literally add value and change your life.
And here's a little piece of value on top of that. Something that is maybe going to impact you right now is if you're trying to get into the world of education, or you love that you're learning this and you find value in it and you're trying to find ways to share it. What I did before I started having the audacity to share my own education, was I would share others. And so sometimes the best thing you can do before you try to get on camera and, be that person adding value, which I highly admire and I highly respect, and get out there and embarrass yourself for the first couple of times and then you'll get over it. But it's sharing value. I used to just always share all my mentors' stuff, and then eventually you get into a position where, you've kind of got some results from what they've taught, and now you can kind of share from your own experience. So definitely share this, though. It helps impact more people. These are the conversations we just have anyways. But again, it's when you're in those environments, this is the natural conversation.
This is real. This is actually what you're actually talking about right now. We're not, I see there's a lot of people that we have these conversations about, how you can be a business and these programs and stuff like that. But you understand that none of it will happen unless you actually change all these other things. And everyone goes, oh, it's if you think you can or you think you can't, they're both right. Like, I remember I had like mass belief, like I got to believe there's actually biological science, the way your chemicals react, and understand the language and the way your posture, like this stuff that he's talking about, it's actually real. It's not fake. It's not hocus pocus. There's literally a formula behind it. And nobody talks about this stuff. Honestly, and when Mark and I have these conversations, or when we're around these types of people, it's like, I don't like small talk, to be perfectly honest. If I got to have like a long conversation, I find it extremely exhausting because I feel like I'm not myself.
I'd rather sit in a cardboard box by myself.
Yes.
Then waste and be in my own thoughts. I'd rather have my own thoughts than to have and all these other people bombarding me with a bunch of bogusness.
Oh my gosh, it is so that way. Like I remember back when I was like in sales or in business or whatever, or your colleagues and stuff. And when I was outside of work and I seen them, I was like, please don't talk to me. I know this is going to be that surface. How is your kids? How are you doing? Yeah. How's Betty over there? Your dog? And it's just like, mindless zombie conversation that didn't mean anything.
And the funny thing is, they don't even want to have that conversation. They're just doing it because it's just like this is the social norm.
Totally. And this is like, this is real talk. This is who I am. This is what I love to share with people, because honestly, this is what changed my life. Yeah. I wouldn't be who I was today. If anyone knew my story before, and here's the thing, I call it a story because it's how I interpreted things and then carried it forward into my future. Right now, I look at things so differently, and it all started with those core things. It actually started with my very first personal development And a lot of times change actually happens with the peak emotional experience. At some point in your life, something impacted your life, or you were at rock bottom, or you wanted something so different that you just were willing to do whatever it took, and you were willing to throw it all away. And it was something very similar to that with myself, that I actually, just so everyone knows, the very first course I ever thought, and I seen something completely different, was Landmark Forums, of all things. I literally went to that one, and they showed me that there was a different perspective. Did I end up on that road all the way? No, you can't go to one and get all hyped up with serotonin and dopamine and be like, yeah, I'm going to change the world, because you aren't a master at it. There's habits that come with this. There's things that you need to do to continue to get that, where you just said with it, right? Where it becomes subconsciously conscious. If you want to be a millionaire or a master at something, you have to already be it. You already understand that? You can't be like, I want to get over there. You actually have to be it. You have to already think you were there. You have to already start acting that way. You have to start understanding the frame of these people, because it's just like I say, there's a blueprint. There's literally a blueprint. I talked about this. 97% of the population works for 3%. And I've been around enough of these people that are the 3%, and we all have these exact same type of conversations that we're having right now with Mark about the same real things. And this is what's real life and what's really going on that can change your life forever. You will be anything that you want to be, because when you set your mind to it, you can actually do it. And now you're aware of it and can actually make it happen. You guys get that? This is the craziest thing. This was like a mind shift, as I like to call it. Do you have anything to add to that, Mark?
No, I just think that, I think that if people understood, like what you were just saying about how their life is a reflection of their consistent thoughts, feelings, and beliefs and behaviors, that's it. Your thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and behaviors are a reflection of your life. And so it's the reason why, we're all babies, and, all of us as we grow up ultimately can look at the same thing, but interpret it completely differently.
Totally.
Everything just is. And your life just is. You didn't have better this or better that. No, everything just is. We all have access to information. We all live on the same planet. It blows my mind how literally we're on a planet, and we've been able to take rocks and sticks and sand and natural resources and create an iPhone 10. Like, what? Like, the next time you say, man, I hate people, someone cuts you off, I hate people. Just remember that people made that car you're driving in. People made that food for you. You didn't have to raise it, catch it, kill it, make it. Like, this computer, the fact that you're watching right now, people made this. You know how to do this shit? You know how to do it.
Be grateful. Yeah. Literally saying, be grateful for it.
Be grateful. You know how to do this shit? You know how does this camera looking at me right now? How are you seeing me? How is this going across the world so people can see this? I don't know. Like, it's mind blowing to me. So if you just realize that you have everything you need in life right now, be grateful, and then enjoy the journey, enjoy the process, have fun growing and contributing. I think that there's like two of the best things in life will happen. There's a lot of amazing things in life. I'm just picking two right now. One is when you get past having to make money just to survive and pay the bills and live paycheck to paycheck. That's one of the best days in your whole life right there. When you no longer have to worry about money. And then that leads you only to the next stage, which is now I can just focus 100% on service. And I think those are two amazing things. So
service right there, man. I love it.
And I don't want the excuse to be that you have to wait until you've taken care of yourself to be able to serve. That's wrong. You can serve on the journey. But in fact, through service will help you make the money. Because if you help everyone get what they want first, you'll get everything you want. But yeah, I think that no matter what stage you're at, if you have the money, focus more on service and adding value. I'm reading a book right now. It's downstairs. Principles by Ray Dalio. I highly recommend you get it. He's a multi-billionaire. His book's called Principles. And he says in the introduction of the book, he says, I am at the stage of my life now as a multi-billionaire. I'm all about service. And I've learned all of these principles that I've put in this book that will teach you how to live a great life, make money, blah, 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 blah. So check that book out as well. Again, I'm referencing lots of books right now because books are phenomenal. But yeah, I mean, what else should we talk about? There's just so much
There's
we could
tons of
talk
stuff.
about.
I think this big one was
People should ask us questions. People should ask us questions.
That's what I was just about to say. I'd like to get some questions out of everybody, and then what we'll do is once we get all this, we're gonna get Mark to give out his 5 most important things that you would do every single day to make a change on yourself. And I can promise you, probably a lot of it has to do with actually helping other people as well. Self-reflection, reading, growing, understanding, physical exercise. We could go on and on and on. But we'd like to actually have you guys actually ask some questions, and don't feel free to ask any question. Ask Mark. So what is the one thing at one point in your life, that one big factor that made a big change in your life? And he'll probably tell you what it was, right?
Yeah.
By the way, guys,
I'm
you guys want to
open
play
book.
paintball? If you want to play paintball, don't play this guy. He was one of the tops in the world at one point. He actually made $300,000 literally in high school playing paintball. So he's more than just a brand guy. He's actually a human being, and he's actually a really good human being. So he's here today, answering your questions, anything that you guys want that's pertaining to obviously stuff that we would want to talk about. We don't want to talk about Bitcoins or some crazy thing that's going on. Positive stuff.
But you can ask anything you want. Yeah, anything you guys want. We're both open books, and I think being transparent is more fun than hiding. So if I can't answer your questions, I will. If I can't, I'll direct you to a book or a resource of somebody that probably can.
A book or reason. I got a question for you. Who was your favorite person you ever interviewed that you ended up getting so much value out of the interview?
The billionaire Tillman Fertitta. He has like 70,000 employees.
Wow.
70,000. He just bought the Houston Rockets for $2.2 billion in cash. So he's got that kind of money. What I loved about him, and one of the things I took away from him amongst a lot of things from that interview, was he said, I didn't know I was a billionaire until Forbes called me up and said, we want to interview you for the Forbes billionaire list because you're a multi-billionaire. And he said, I am? And they said, yeah, we went through your whole process because he's a public company, so people are aware and they know the money. And he was like, and then he bought it back and made it private. But they're like, yeah, you're a billionaire. And he was like, oh, I didn't know I was a billionaire. I didn't know what the score was. I just knew I was winning. He said something like that. I didn't know what the score was. I just knew I was winning the game. And I just thought it was so cool because here's a guy who didn't even know he was a billionaire until Forbes called him up. And he said something like, yeah, I didn't know what the score was because I wasn't keeping count. I just knew I was winning. And I was like, mic drop, like what a badass to be like, I didn't even look at the scoreboard. I just knew I was winning. And I think when you look at life, I think we're always comparing ourselves to others. That's our scoreboard. Who's making more money than me? What neighborhood do I live in? Where am I sending my kids to school? What are people going to think about me? What's my watch, my car, my this, my that? And I don't think there's necessarily, to a degree, certain things wrong with having high standards. But I think it's when we use it to fulfill our ego in the wrong way instead of to reward us because it's something that we want. It's something that we deserve. It's something that we've earned. If we do it as an ego thing to prove to others how good we are, that's where there's a problem. And so the fact that he wasn't looking at the scoreboard, because most people are like, I want to be a billionaire. And then once you get into the billionaires club, all those motherfuckers are trying to get the biggest boat, the biggest building, the biggest this, the biggest that. So I'm trying to remember what my point was, but basically, he was the best interview. Yeah.
So you got fired. You were like, oh my gosh, it was probably like a light bulb. Like, wow. I mean, the fact that somebody like that didn't even know he was a billionaire shows that he was just focused on being him and doing what he was doing, that he didn't even really care what was going on in the background, and it just happened.
And here's a little trick too, because I can feel people either from my past or right now who are saying, how do you interview a billionaire? Like, how do you sit down with a billionaire, on your TV show and interview somebody, or just in general, and have the confidence to sit there and even hold a conversation for an hour? And this is kind of like maybe a little too much, but I'm gonna say it anyways. I just recognize a couple of things. One, this guy wakes up, takes a shit, puts his pants on, puts his shoes on, has somebody in his life who like his kids maybe who are like, that's just my dad. What do you mean? There's always like I've gotten friends with super high level successful people, and their kids or the people that are always around them are like, what do you mean? That's just Bob. That's just dad. And I'm like, there's people in their life that think they're just a standard, just normal person, because it is. Like, yeah, like Donald Trump's kids, that's dad. And we're over here like, that's the freaking billionaire, president, this, that, or the other. And people are like, that's just dad. And like, there's always somebody who thinks that's just a normal person because they're a normal person. And so the way I sit down with celebrities and billionaires is right before I do, I just go, this is a normal person. Like, this is just a normal ass person who's figured some things out. And let's talk about what they figured out. How does a normal ass person figure it out to get $7 billion into their bank account? Like in one lifetime, you're able to go out and get $7 billion and put it in your bank account. Let's sit down and talk about that. And when you realize that it's a normal person talking to a normal person, but they figured out a couple things, let's just talk about what those things are. And it's like that evens the playing field and the conversation is way better. So that was just a little side note. I felt like I wanted to share it because a lot of the times people out there feel like their confidence or self-worth is not the same as a billionaire. They're just a normal person.
Totally. I agree with you 100%. I remember somebody was telling me one time when they ran into a star and they were watching the star, and then they told me that they got to brush their knee and they were like having like a haywire, like.
You told me that. Yeah.
And I was like, I stopped and I said, listen, I want you to think about this for a second. You're getting your serotonin and dopamine and everything else really excited and you touched their kneecap.
Yeah, celebrity. Woo.
Celebrity. I mean, what impact did that person make in your life, right? That's what I mean. That's that zombie mentality, because everyone's put that person at a huge worth media-wise. You don't even know this person that they're, and here's the thing. A lot of people don't understand your brain wants things that it can't have. So the thought of this star being far away and I can't do it and then I touch it, it literally reacts that way, right? And it was the funniest thing. And this is just like a trigger. It's just how we naturally, human beings want stuff you can't have. That's how it works. We have a couple questions here. Who is the first one? What's the best book you've ever read, Mark?
That is a great question, and I get asked that all the time. And here's a lesson within the question. Context is everything, and the quality of any answer you ever seek will be in direct proportion to the clarity of the context you have. And so you said, what's the best book I've ever read? In the hierarchy of every book I've ever read, because here's the thing, there's the best children's book I've ever read, there's the best marketing book I've ever read, there's the best mindset book I've ever read. When you've read 500 books, right, like that's a lot of books. So
I got a way to reframe here.
I will answer the question. It's Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within. That is the overarching best book I've ever read. But as a lesson from somebody who's done 1,600 interviews, you learn that the answers you get to questions are always a reflection of how good of a question did you ask. And so the best book I've ever read is Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within. But had you asked me the best marketing book, mindset book, psychology book, time management book, goal setting book, I'd have a different answer. But the best book overall at the top, literally at the top of my shelf for this one, you can't really see it. There's more books up there. There's more books. Is Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within?
It's great. I actually haven't read that. I haven't read that book, but I'll definitely take a look at it. Actually, I have Tony Robbins' Money.
It's a big one. It's right next to the Money book. They're both like 3 inches tall.
And you've read them both. Next question from my man Nick Schneider. What percentage of your day do you spend on business, sharing value versus personal development and growth?
What percentage of your day do you spend on business / sharing value versus personal development / growth? So the personal development / growth usually happens in the morning. I try to get the personal development and the growth done, like reading and going to the gym, I get that done in the morning. So then I can't make the excuse later that I'm mentally, physically tired. Oh, I had a long day at work. I'm so tired. And then you convince yourself that sitting on the couch like a zombie is going to be better. Don't get me wrong. I'm a human. I do the same thing. But I know that, let's be honest, there's two problems. One, if you wake up and you're tired, something ain't right. Second thing, that's the time where you should have the most opportunity, the most mental and physical energy after you put some good nutrients in your body. You should be mentally, physically ready. So guess what? Two things. One, wake up earlier and reschedule your time to get some time back. So I just wake up earlier. If I have to do something earlier in the morning, I wake up earlier and then I add that time in. So here's the trick. Go to bed earlier and then it's easier to wake up earlier. It's not that hard. It's so easy. So I wake up and I read and I go to the gym. So I'm getting the mental and physical exercise and growth. That's the personal growth. And then the rest of my day is business, sharing value, adding value. And so, yeah, I mean, the cool part is I'm only doing about an hour a day of personal growth. That's not like that's the right number. It's just because I've put in my 10,000 hours. So that's not saying I'm better or don't need to do as much. But my muscles, my endurance is there. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you've never gone to the gym before, you got a lot more you got to put in to get to where you want to be. Where, you know, I'm at the point now where I've read 500 books on personal development, marketing, sales. I can like a library of Google. I can just spit out information. So for me, it's the hour a day will pave the way because life happens. You get busy, right? You don't like back when I was younger, I had 10 hours a day to block out to just read and not pay attention to college. Now I'm in business. I got stuff I got to do. And so I read and work out for an hour and then I read for an hour and work out for about 30 minutes. And then the rest of the day is for the first 4 hours of my day, it's the highest income and impact activities. So from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., I read. From 8 to 9, I exercise, shower, eat. And then from 9 to about 1 o'clock, it's just typically business, highest income, highest impact activities. And then after 1 o'clock, then I have the rest of my business to focus on.
Awesome. That's very good. I mean, would it be safe to say that your business activities are all about the value in one anyways?
Yeah, exactly. No, I was going to make the distinction. Yeah.
It's kind of one. So now we have, I've had this question quite often, and maybe you can give a different perspective on it. But Donna asks, how do you change your mindset from paycheck to paycheck life to thinking bigger picture when you're caught up in surviving?
It's simple. There's a couple things. One is you don't have a vision that's big enough, that's powerful enough, that is like I'll die for. And I'm guessing from your picture you're married, so you either have kids, plan to have kids, or plan to just have you and your husband life, amazing travel, etc. The point is, it doesn't matter any of those contexts that you want to live in or are living in. What matters is that your vision for what your future, you have like a beautiful photo of your wedding picture there with the light in the background. That's like your vision, the light. So you have to have that glowing vision for your life. That's like a frame right there of like this beautiful moment. Now you need to have a picture for that beautiful moment in the future, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road. For me, I'm going to jump all the way down to about 50. At 50 years old, I'll have made over $300 million in personal income. If you look at all my tax returns from, whatever, all the way up to 50, I'll have made $300 million. And I'll just be focused on charity contribution work and investing, and maybe a little bit of consulting or speaking here and there and writing books. But it'll all be about service, because I found that one of the loopholes and secrets to life is contribution. If you just give, you feel so good. It's one of the secrets to life, growth and contribution. Those are the two needs of the spirit. The reason why most people are spiritually weakened, spiritually unfulfilled, is because they don't grow enough mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, financially, and they don't contribute enough. And so one of the secrets, one of the patterns to model to be more spiritually fulfilled, meaning emotionally happy and connected and feeling like life is just so good regardless of the money in the bank, is if you grow and if you contribute. And the crazy thing is if you grow the right way in the right areas and you can add more value, contribute, serve more, and through this paradigm of I grow more so I can give more, I grow more so I can give more, you will always have more. I call it the 3 pillars: give, have, grow. Having is what everybody wants. They all want to have. They all want to stay the freaking same. I don't want to give anymore. I don't have anything to give. I don't want to grow. I don't have time. I don't have money. I don't have energy to invest in growth. So they want to have more, but they don't want to give more or grow more. And here's the crazy paradox to life. As long as you're growing and giving, the byproduct is having. And so you will always have everything you want in life if in proportion to what you want to have. I want to have $1 million a year. That's pennies. Then you need to grow and give in proportion to what the byproduct of which will mean having $1 million. As soon as I started to continue to grow and I got to my 400 book, my 500 book, and I'll be at 3,000 books eventually, I'm growing so I can give more, and the byproduct is having more. And so I think that to go from paycheck to paycheck, you got to have a bigger vision. Who do I need to become?
Boom.
Who do I need to become to step into the reality of the life I dream of? Who do I need to become to step into the reality of the life I dream of? The life you dream of and the life you have, the only difference is the person you need to become. The person you are is why you have these results in this life. It's nobody's fault. It's an awareness. And then it's a truth. And then the person you need to become inevitably will give you the life that you want. But it's first, what life do I want and who do I need to become to live that life? Very simple. And in order to be inspired, be committed, be consistently compelled to overcome the bullshit excuses of life that would stop you from doing what needs to happen to become that person, you got to have the vision. So you got to have the vision.
Dude, that's fire there. Context. That this is the like, I can tell you guys right now, like somebody who talks from I'm living paycheck to paycheck, I'm broke, I'm this, that, and the other thing. This is the formula. You are not a product of your environment. You guys get that? Your environment, it's around you. You're a product of what you want to see vision-wise and make yourself. There's been people that have had horrendous childhoods who have been put into the craziest environment that they've ever been, that you can never fathom. And something in them seen themselves beyond what they were. They stopped playing a victim of their environment and they started living where they wanted to be. And I remember this from Thrive when the interview was, I can't remember his name, Hatter?
Yeah.
He asked, it's Naveen James, I believe is his last name, James,
yep.
right?
Yep, Naveen Jain. Yep.
Yeah, they said to him, what's the one thing that you could give to an entrepreneur, one piece of advice? And he said, stop living where your current circumstances are and start having a vision where you actually want to be. And he wrote a book called Moonshot. It's actually really, really cool.
And this guy's net worth is $8 billion.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Power.
I mean,
these are and they all have the same thing. Like all these people, it's like, that's what I'm talking about. It's like literally a formula. Someone needs to write a formula. Maybe it's me. There's a formula. And it's like biology. They did all these studies and they realize how all this stuff works. And they're like, okay, well, this is how your system works, or this is how this works, right? We did all the studying. There's a study. It's very simple.
It's just I just tell people, like whoever said that, Donna said, how do I go from living paycheck to paycheck to the life that I want? And it's a simple question. I have a question for you. And I don't need you to answer it. I just want it to resonate and land. And the question is, how much time, energy, and money, whatever you have available, whatever you can create, don't immediately have the knee-jerk reaction to make an excuse. But whatever time, energy, and money you can find, you can get back, you can create. How much time, energy, and money do you invest every single day to learn the knowledge and the skill sets that you need to get the results that you want to get you away from living paycheck to paycheck. And usually people are more committed to their excuses. I'm not saying you are, but usually more people are more committed to their excuses and their current circumstances of being comfortable. You say you're in pain, you're not in pain. If you're repeating the same shit over and over again, that ain't pain. Nobody wants to be in pain. You do whatever you can. If you touch a stove and it hurts, your body instantly pulls back. When you think living paycheck to paycheck is painful, it ain't that painful because you're still doing it. If it was that painful, you'd be up at 3 a.m. reading books on investing, on opportunities, on hustling, on sales. I'm an introvert. You'd get good at selling if you were in enough pain. And so I'm just telling you like it is. People say, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. And I'm not pointing at Donna right now. I'm just giving her as the example of all the people that live paycheck to paycheck. But then when asked, what are you doing every day to change? They look at you like a dog when it hears a weird whistle. And they go, what? What am I doing every day to change?
Totally.
And it's like, if you say it hurts, you're going to be up at 3 a.m. reading how to change it. And so it's just back to the vision. If you're really agitated and in a painful state, you'll do whatever you got to do to change.
I agree 100%. I talk to people all the time and they talk about change, or they tell me, here's a perfect example of a question that I asked people when they said, you know, I don't have $1,000, or I don't have $2,000, or I can't afford this, or I can't do that. And exactly what there's a lot of biology. Like we're expressing, you know, how you should be like acting and reacting in the different models, but there's also a lot of biology behind it. So number one, your brain inherently works based on the least resistant path. First off, it's programmed that way, right? So we talk about that way. But one of the questions that I always, when somebody goes, oh, I need a car, I need this, that, and the other thing, and then I say to them, I say, well, what are you doing to go get it? And they're like, well, it's always a complaint about all these circumstances that stop them. And I said, listen, I know the way that your central nervous system works. I said, if I strapped a bomb to you right now and told you legally you had to go out and come up with X amount of dollars, or you had to accomplish this, what do you think the odds that you'd be able to accomplish it? And every single time, they're like, 100% I'd be able to accomplish it. Why? Because your why of not blowing up is more important than not getting the money. You guys understand that? And soon as you understand and correlate how your body functions and the biology and the dopamine and the serotonin and the fact that literally your brain will always try and operate at the point of least resistance. That's why we become inherently lazy. It's pre-programmed. But here's the thing, when you start reading and you start learning about it, you become aware. And as Mark was saying, first thing is becoming aware. When you become aware of it, right, that's when you start doing things outside of that. You need to grow. That's why we have Alzheimer's and dementia at exponentially fast rates. I mean, people in their late 50s, 60s having dementia, having Alzheimer's. Why? Because just like our body, we talk about, you know, our muscles and our skin and everything else about how it needs to grow, so does your brain. If you're not thinking, your body's like, oh, okay, well, it doesn't need to operate that way, so we don't need to use that. And you'll just die faster, right? There's a lot. I wish I had a boot camp and I could just literally take people through a boot camp for 6 months on how to become an all-star, right? Yeah. We know that that's not the case. But
2019, we'll create the boot camp. We'll create that training. 2019.
Dude, could you imagine how the impact that if you just followed this, right? And here's the thing, and I just want to let everyone know here, I watch this all the time in the top marketers, even Mark, everyone. We give a ton of value. We take our time to give you a ton of value, not just myself, but you see the Grant Cardones, you see the Ty Lopez, you see every top marketer out there. You see Lewis Howes. They give you tons of value, and they always ask, well, why do you give so much value? Are you worried about competition? No. You know what happens is 3% of the population employs 97% of the population, and it's not because they don't have it at you. You could literally go buy yourself a whole booklet of books and take the time to master the craft on how to do it because someone's already done it. There's a map there. We all use Google Maps to get there, and we always get there, but there's roadblocks in the way. There's our limiting beliefs that we had in the past that stop us. And you know what we do? We take the path of least resistance. From 0 to 8 years old, we had a program. We go back to that program. I am a person based on an environment from 0 to 8. You guys understand that? It's called a child. And literally, I was a piece of this. Everybody's a piece of this, right? But there's a formula to success, and this is the most important thing that, man, this world would be so different if the way that we taught our kids, the education system, could you imagine an environment where we actually taught people what this stuff is? Imagine this world full of fucking all-stars living the life. Understanding
it doesn't fit the narrative of the world, of the government, of the people in power,
correct.
Which is a whole nother tangent.
Yeah, you
but
just opened up a big world. Yeah, that would be going for hours. Here's
the cool part, though, is that it makes it much easier for you to succeed because the world's not full of 97% rock stars. Unfortunately, it's full of 90%, 97% of average people living mediocre lives. And so to stand out, to compete in this world, oh, it's such a competitive world. And it ain't. It's very easy to succeed.
Dude, there's $400 trillion on this planet. That was the last stat. $400 trillion. How hard is it?
You only got to get $1 million in your bank account every year, and you're living a good life.
Dude, literally, 400 trillion people, $400 trillion on this planet, right? And guess what? You guys need to understand it. Gary Vee says this all the time. You had a 1 in 400. I think it's a 1 in 400 trillion chance of becoming a human being as well. What are the odds of that? There's $400 trillion on this planet, and you had a 1 in 400 trillion chance to actually become a human being, right? You guys can create whatever you want in your life. It's literally your limiting beliefs. Yeah. Mark has just spent the last hour and a bit, or last hour, and actually it's almost an hour and a half, giving you guys a formula that a kid at 18 years old that wasn't given all this stuff has literally created a path for himself of abundance. And the way he created it is by creating an abundance in other people's lives. So understand that when you're in a position of giving, you will always win. That's the fire that I would get out of this. And that's why I'm a hard guy. I'll be the first person. I'm not the easiest person to give out value to just anybody. And it's part of my limiting belief that I'm working on, that not everybody is a good person. I need to switch that up on how I frame that. But Mark actually truly is a good person. I can text him and he'll get back to me, and I get that. So that's what it's all about. If you guys got value in this, please share it up. He just spent an hour and a half out of his time, and I know how much an hour's worth. So guys, love you guys all. I appreciate Mark, everything that he did with this, the fact that he took out an hour and a half. And if you guys truly, I promise you, share this, get this message out to people, because I can't tell you how important it is. We're not here to sell you shit, nothing. This is just literally, if you can impact one person's life. Imagine somebody's having a shitty day and they didn't understand it. And here's the thing, you know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know. And imagine this comes into your feed and you listen to this one day and you learn one little piece of information that was able to alter the course on where you were going to be. You just made a change in somebody's life. And it literally took a share, a heart, whatever, and ended up in their feed. That's why I love fucking Facebook. You have anything last to say, Mark?
No, that's it. You just summed it up perfectly, and I see a bunch of people saying thank you. So appreciate it. That makes it all worth it.
Thanks, guys. Love you all. Love that you guys got value. Talk to you later.
See you guys.